There is a man in every room who never raises his voice. He does not laugh the loudest. He does not fight for attention. And yet, every single person in that room feels him. Women notice him first. Men respect him without knowing why. If you have ever wondered why the quiet man in the corner pulls more attention than the loudest man on the stage, you are about to understand the psychology behind it. Because silence, when used correctly, is not weakness. It is the most dangerous form of power a man can hold. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you will never see silence the same way again. We live in a world that worships noise. Talk more, post more, explain yourself more, defend yourself more. Society tells us that the loudest voice wins the room. But if you look closely at the men who actually command respect, the men people remember long after they leave, you will notice something strange. They rarely speak first. They rarely explain themselves. They rarely chase approval. And somehow, they are the ones everyone remembers. This is not an accident. This is psychology. And today, we are going to break down exactly why silent men are more attractive, more respected, and more magnetic than men who talk to fill every gap in the air. Here is something most men never learn. The more you talk to prove yourself, the less people believe you. The more you explain your worth, the more it sounds like you are trying to convince yourself. Silence does the opposite. When a man is silent, the mind of the observer starts filling in the blanks. And the human mind, when given a mystery, almost always fills it in with something impressive. Psychologists call this the ambiguity effect. When information is missing, people do not assume the worst. They assume depth. They assume intelligence. They assume control. A silent man becomes a mirror. Everyone who looks at him sees what they respect most, because he has given them nothing to disagree with. Compare that to a man who talks constantly. Every sentence he speaks is a new piece of information the listener can judge, question, or reject. Every joke can fall flat. Every opinion can be challenged. Every story can be picked apart. The more a man speaks, the more surface area he gives people to find his flaws. Silence removes that surface area entirely. This is why the quiet man in the room feels untouchable. Not because he is hiding something shameful, but because he is not handing out pieces of himself for free. Attraction, at its core, is built on tension and unpredictability. The moment everything about a man is known, the tension collapses. This is true in friendships, in business, and especially in romantic attraction. A man who over-explains himself, who fills every silence with words, who needs to be understood immediately, signals something the subconscious mind reads instantly: insecurity. Think about the last time you met someone who talked non-stop about themselves, their achievements, their opinions, their plans. At first it might sound impressive, but within minutes, something in you starts to pull back. You start to feel like you already know everything about them, and there is nothing left to discover. The mystery is gone. And where there is no mystery, there is no pull. Now think about the opposite. A person who speaks only when it matters, who listens more than they talk, who answers a question with calm, short words, and lets the silence sit afterward instead of rushing to fill it. That silence creates a gap, and the human mind is wired to lean into gaps. It wants to know more. It wants to understand. It stays curious. This is not manipulation. This is simply how human psychology works. We chase what we cannot fully read, and we lose interest in what has already been fully explained. Every mystery holds power because the mind refuses to leave it unsolved. This is why unfinished stories stay in our memory longer than finished ones. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for incomplete things to occupy more space in our thoughts than completed ones. A silent man is, in a sense, an unfinished story. He has said just enough to be noticed, but not enough to be fully known. And because the story is incomplete, the mind keeps returning to it. It keeps wondering, what is he thinking? What does he know that he is not saying? Why does he seem so unaffected by things that shake everyone else? This is exactly why men who talk the least often get remembered the most. Their silence becomes a canvas, and people project their own imagination onto it. They imagine wisdom. They imagine strength. They imagine restraint born from experience, not fear. The irony is that most silent men are not doing this on purpose. They are simply calm. They do not feel the need to narrate every thought out loud, but the effect on others is the same either way. Silence, real or practiced, creates gravity. There is a difference between a man who is quiet because he is afraid, and a man who is quiet because he does not need to prove anything. This difference is felt instantly, even if it cannot always be explained in words. Fake confidence is loud. It needs an audience. It needs validation. It gets uncomfortable in silence and rushes to fill it with jokes, boasting, or over-explaining. The moment nobody is watching, fake confidence collapses because it was never real to begin with. It was a performance built for approval. Silent confidence is different. It doesn't perform, doesn't need the room to react. A man with real silent confidence can sit in a group, say very little, and still feel completely at ease. He is not silent because he lacks something to say. He is silent because he does not feel the pressure to say it. This is the kind of confidence that Marcus Aurelius wrote about when he reminded himself that very little is needed to make a happy life, and that it is all within the mind and its way of thinking. A man who has mastered his own mind does not need external noise to feel secure. His stillness is proof that he already has what he needs. The ancient Stoics understood something about silence that modern culture has completely forgotten. Epictetus taught that nature gave man one tongue, but 2 ears, so that he might listen twice as much as he speaks. This was not just advice on manners. It was a strategy for controlling the mind and preserving inner strength. Seneca warned against the habit of speaking simply to be heard, saying that many would have reached wisdom had they not believed they had already reached it. In other words, the man who talks constantly to prove his intelligence is often the man furthest from possessing it. True understanding does not need to announce itself. The Stoics believed that a man's energy is limited, and every word spoken carelessly is energy leaking out of him. Silence to them was not the absence of thought, was the discipline of controlling which thoughts deserved to leave the mind at all. A Stoic man speaks with intention, not with impulse. And because his words are rare, they carry weight when they finally arrive. This is the deeper root of why silent men are more attractive. It is not a trick or a technique. It is the visible result of internal discipline. When a man has trained his mind to stay calm, unaffected, and controlled, silence becomes the natural output. People are not attracted to the silence itself. They are attracted to the mastery that silence represents. Understanding this psychology is one thing. Applying it is another. So here is how a man begins to build this kind of presence in his own life. First, resist the urge to fill every silence. In conversations, in meetings, in arguments, practice letting a pause exist without rushing to end it. Most people are so uncomfortable with silence that they will speak first, out of anxiety, not necessity. Let them. Silence is not a gap you need to fix. It is a space you are allowed to own. Second, stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided how they feel about you. Explanation is often just another form of seeking approval. A man who is secure in his choices does not need everyone to understand them. He simply lives them. Third, speak less, but mean more. Before saying something, ask yourself if it needs to be said, or if you are only saying it to be noticed. Over time, this filter alone will change how people experience your presence. Your words will start to carry more weight because they are no longer wasted on noise. Fourth, get comfortable being misunderstood. Most men chase constant validation because they cannot tolerate being unseen for even a moment. But the man who can sit in silence, even while being misjudged, is the man who eventually earns the deepest respect. Because his calm was never dependent on other people's opinions in the first place. None of this means becoming cold, distant, or emotionally closed off. Silence is not the same as suppression. A man who practices this is not hiding his emotions. He is simply not spilling them carelessly into every room he enters. He feels deeply, but he chooses where that depth is shown. In a world of constant noise, notifications, opinions, and people fighting to be heard online and offline, silence has become rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. A man who can sit still in a loud world, who does not need to react to every comment, every provocation, every attempt to pull him into unnecessary conversation, stands out simply by not participating in the noise. This is not about becoming unapproachable. It is about becoming undisturbed. The world will always try to pull a reaction out of you. Silent confidence is the discipline of choosing when to give one and refusing to give it away for free. The men history remembers as strong were rarely the loudest men in the room. They were the ones who spoke rarely, but whose words carried the weight of everything they did not say. That is the kind of presence we are building here, one video at a time. If this video shifted something in how you see silence, do not let it end here. Subscribe to this channel, because this is exactly the kind of mindset we build together, video after video. Every piece of content on this channel exists to help you become the calm, controlled, silently confident man that people notice without needing to raise your voice. And before you leave, tell me in the comments, have you ever met a man like this? Someone whose silence said more than words ever could. Or maybe you are becoming this man yourself right now. Either way, I want to hear it. Write it below. Stay disciplined. Stay silent when it serves you. And remember, the loudest man in the room is rarely the most powerful one in it.